Hi, I'm Mandy Fitzsimmons. I'm your Washington Realtors Legal Hotline lawyer. And in this short series, we are going to be describing changes to a Washington law that you have been dealing in and around, whether you know it or not, for the last few years. The law is known as the Washington Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act. We refer to it as WUCIOA, Washington Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act. It went into effect on July 1st, 2018, and it affects and controls every residential housing community with CC&Rs that were recorded on or after July 1st, 2018. It also controls any community, residential community, that has opted into WUCIOA since July 1st of 2018. There are many condominium communities that opted in to coverage under WUCIOA. There are, to my knowledge, there's not a single family residential plat community that opted in to WUCIOA. WUCIOA creates increased burdens for both management of homeowner associations as well as sellers in the process of selling property that is in a WUCIOA community. What you need to know for the purposes of this video is that if you are selling property in a WUCIOA community, it is referred to as a CIC community, common interest community. And that terminology comes out of the statute, and we also use it in the statewide forms. Why am I making this distinction using the term or using the acronym CIC? In residential communities that are subject to CC&Rs, many times that community will be required to generate a resale certificate during the process of selling the property to a buyer. And if this community is subject to this resale certificate requirement, what that means is that the seller must deliver to the buyer a resale certificate prior to closing and for some number of days, 5 days, following receipt of the resale certificate, the buyer has the unilateral right to rescind the transaction. And the reason I'm drawing the distinction between communities that are subject to the resale certificate requirement and these WUCIOA communities with the label CIC is because if the community is a WUCIOA community, then the resale certificate you have to use is known as Statewide Form 27 CIC. If your seller is required to deliver a resale certificate in a community that is not a WUCIOA community, then the form of resale certificate that's required is a straight Form 27. So once again, how do you know whether the property you're selling is in a WUCIOA community or not? All that you might know is that there is a homeowners association. So here again is the test. If the CC&Rs for that homeowners association were recorded after July 1st, 2018, that property is absolutely part of a WUCIOA community. And that is true whether it's a condominium, a townhome, or a property in a single family residential plat community, with one exception that I haven't described yet. Or the property is in a community, and the community, although the CC&Rs were originally recorded prior to July 1st of 2018, that community has voted to opt in to WUCIOA. Again, I'm not aware of any single family residential plat communities that have done that, but numerous condominium communities have. And if you're selling a condominium unit in a condominium community where the community was created prior to July of 2018, but they have opted in to WUCIOA, their homeowner association leadership team should be able to tell you that they're a WUCIOA community, but you can also find the information yourself by looking at the preliminary commitment for title, because there will necessarily be an amendment to the CC&Rs recorded on title after July 1st of 2018, and that amendment to the CC&Rs will include language opting the community into RCW 64.90. That is the Washington Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act. Again, the statutory reference will be RCW 64.90. This seems very confusing, and it is. I would not lie to you by telling you it's not. It is confusing. But this is the reality that you have been dealing with since 2018. What I'm telling you right now is nothing new. What's new is that the Washington legislature has expanded the application of WUCIOA. And effective January 1st of 2028, so we're talking a few years, but effective January 1st, 2028, every single community in Washington state that's subject to CC&Rs and a homeowners association will be subject to WUCIOA. Between now and then, there's going to be a lot more education, probably more videos describing that process. So what is important for you to know today? What is important for you to know today is that there is a distinction between communities based on whether or not they are WUCIOA communities. And if it is a WUCIOA community, meaning that it is subject to RCW 64.90, then the form of resale certificate that must be delivered is a Form 27 CIC. And if you have a community where a resale certificate is required, but it's not a WUCIOA community, then the form of resale certificate that must be delivered is a Form 27. In the next video, we're going to cover two things. We're going to cover an exemption that applies to certain single-family residential plat communities. And we're also going to talk about a newly created, brand new statutory right of a buyer to waive the right to receive the resale certificate. If you have questions about anything I've covered so far, please ask me a question by visiting WARealtor.org and following the links to the legal hotline. Thank you for being a Washington Realtors member.